All right, well, thanks everybody for attending our session today and spending your afternoon with us. I know your time is very valuable, so hopefully we can make this well worth it. So what we're going to be talking about today with respect to customer engagement, the backdrop behind this session is that, you know, we're going through this shift now where a lot of the projects, particularly IT projects that are being done in the state, they've shifted from, you know, not just doing business process automation or, you know, speeding up business rules processing or things like that, but they've gone a step further into exposing services online to the constituent population, right? So this could be regulated entities, prospective or actual beneficiaries or claim recipients of programs, or you know, someone from Joe Q Public, right? You know, being able to do searches on information. So with that shift, there's definitely been a shift in how you structure, manage, and approach these projects so that you actually are engaging those customers during the build and development process. And it's definitely a different experience than I think what we've all been, you know, accustomed to over the last, you know, generation or so of systems. So that's really what the goal of the session is today. Is we've got a panel of very willing volunteers here to discuss both past projects as well as current projects, to give everyone some perspective on, you know, not only what the strategy and approach is today for how to address and engage customers, but also what's actually worked in the past in terms of what went well and what the lessons learned were. So with that, I'm going to hand it right over to our panel, and let me introduce you to them very quickly. So first up, we're going to have Christine Awtrey. So Christine is with the California Energy Commission. She is the project manager for the modernized appliance efficiency database. And this was a system that was responsible for actually allowing for appliance manufacturers to register online and get their appliances energy certified. So Christine will be talking about sort of the past implementation and lessons learned and what worked, and frankly, you know, what could have gone better. We also have Kevin Gaines. He's the Director of Digital Services on the CWS project, and I think a lot of you are probably familiar with that project. And what Kevin's going to be talking about are the strategies and approaches that are being done today with respect to engaging that customer base and keeping them involved in the actual design and development process. So a little bit of past perspective as well as present and future perspective, all right? So with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Christine to tell us a little bit about MAEDBS.
Okay.
DBS, excuse me.
Okay. All right, so he gave a little bit of background, but I just want to give a little bit more. Current law states that manufacturers may not sell or offer for sale regulated appliances in California unless the appliances are certified by their manufacturers or approved third party and listed in the database. An appliance may only be listed after a manufacturer submits data on the appliance with a statement certifying that the appliance meets the state's water and or energy efficiency standards and has been tested and marked as required. The former appliance database system consisted of 4 separate systems, which relied upon Microsoft Outlook, a .NET SQL Server, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft Access. The manufacturer's submittal process was entirely manual. Our old process was fragile and flawed, paper-intensive. Email tracking was not viable, all of which showed the demand for a new, more efficient database. The new database is now one integrated system that allows manufacturers and others to submit certification data and verify compliance electronically, giving them more control over the timing and accuracy of their submittals while dramatically reducing the time commission staff spends processing paperwork. We reduced it by 95%. It was deployed on time and on budget. It has shown great results that nearly tripled our production rate. And this went live on August 6th of 2016, or actually 2015. Just saw that typo in there, so that was last year. So it's been great. So it's been up and running for over a year now. The keys to the success, we had a committed team that truly cared about making appliances database user-friendly. We had extremely responsive contractors, Trinity, that were able to implement changes quickly. Manufacturers that embraced the new database after they were able to realize the benefits that it would actually offer them. So I'm going to go over some of the lessons that we learned. So number 1 was build a strong team. Bring on committed and engaged staff was number 1. Hire a knowledgeable contractor that is committed and flexible. Their team was excellent. They basically bonded and worked together with our staff as part of the team and were very flexible. Get buy-in from management early employ strong project management, and involve the decision makers when they're needed. Do not be afraid to change up the team or roles to take advantage of individual strengths. Recognize that some individuals may not work well on in a team environment. Do not allow the whole team to get off course because of a few individuals. Find creative ways to use their skill sets in an individual way versus having them part of the team. Other lessons learned was create a support call center. We created a support call center a few months before we actually before implementation. Use the call center to identify issues that may affect the manufacturers. Involve the call center in process improvement. Prepare the support call center to handle the many customer concerns once going live. Use the call center to also create FAQs to assist the customer with the new system. Hotline staff was able to identify issues that would affect the manufacturers negatively and how to mitigate these issues before we went live. They actually learned how to do the entire manual process, so understood the struggles that the manufacturers might go through with the new automated system. Also, internal and external testing. Set up some real users with accounts in a training environment to do testing and provide early feedback. That was critical. Be prepared to do a lot of internal testing. Extend the time needed for testing if it's needed. I came onto the project 5 months before deployment. I immediately saw the deployment date was at risk because of a lack of testing. Do not underestimate the time needed to do testing, both internal and external. Another one was prepare for and manage risk. Build rapport with the decision makers, staff, and project managers. Identify risks early and have a contingency plan to deal with them should they occur. Be able to manage risk and implement contingency plans quickly once an actual decision has been made. Do not rely heavily on a schedule that you miss potential risks. One thing with rapport is make sure that you build it before it's actually needed. Work on that early before you need it because that's so critical, and having that rapport on both sides with the staff and with the contractor was very huge and allowed for flexibility and compromises to be made when they were needed. Don't rely so heavily on a schedule that you miss potential risks. So one thing we discovered was just because the schedule says something, really be aware, and I like talking, and I don't know if they're metaphors or analogies, but driving with a map in front of your windshield. The map may say that there's a bridge coming up, but there's going over a cliff. Take the time to move the map, look across, and make sure that bridge is actually there. So people follow this so closely, and it's the same thing with the maintenance manual. It says that your tires you just bought new tires and that your engine's checked. But if you hear the knocking of the check and you feel a flat tire, stop what you're doing. So that's one thing I definitely, when I came on board, was so strict going with the project and not taking the time to see the cues and what was going on outside, actually live. Just be ready. And when you do have these, have that you've already got the contingency plan in place to be able to make the decisions quickly. Once you've made it, it's like pulling off a Band-Aid. You've made it, pull it off quickly. The last one is know your customer. So identify your customer. We had manufacturers, third-party certifiers, researchers, retailers, and general public. Identify customers that may struggle with the new system. We had a language barrier. A lot of our customers were in China, India, a lot of language issues. Manufacturers that relied on, they had third-party certifiers doing all their work. They weren't even aware of the new system because they had relied so much on the third-party certifier, so we now had to reach out to them. The technical skill set might not be there, so really understanding where they're going to struggle, and that's why that call center was so critical, to start creating the training material early. And also how the customers are going to use the database. The manufacturers and third-party certifiers would use this. They needed the submittal interface and to be able to search. But we have a lot of researchers and a lot of public, interest that would use it differently, and they were more interested in, let's say, an advanced search. So finding out that it's not a one-size-fits-all, and what areas your different customers will fit was really critical. So I would say build a strong team is my number one. It's all about the people. It's all about the team. It's all about the connections and building the rapport. Create a support call center before you need it. You need a lot of internal and external testing, and the external is critical, and make sure you really involve the public and make it as transparent as you can to get them involved in this process. Prepare for and manage the risk. Don't drive with a map over your windshield, and know your customer.
Great, all right. Thank you so much, Christine. So just a quick procedural matter. If you have any questions or follow-ups, I'll ask you to just hold those until after Kevin does his part, and then we'll do the Q&A collectively at the end, okay? So why don't we move on to Kevin?
Okay. Again, Kevin Gaines. I'm with the department I work for is Social Services. And I'm with the Children and Family Services Division. And since about October, I've been involved in full-time in the project to replace the Child Welfare Services Case Management System. We've been working at that for a while, and I guess I can just get into the slides and we can kind of figure out what we're talking about here. If you haven't noticed yet, we talk about this project a lot of late, and so I'm just going to try and give you the basics. So anyone attend the plenary sessions this morning, or any of these other conversations or workshops or whatever where Child Welfare Digital Services has been discussed, this whole shift to Agile and all at one or two? Okay, so I kind of need to do a little background work, huh? Okay, that's fine. So Child Welfare Digital Services, what we're doing is do two things. We're maintaining a legacy case management system called CWS-NS, brilliant name, Child Welfare Services Case Management System. If you can come up with a more clever name, I got $20 for you. And we make system updates to that rascal. It's a product that I believe we first completed the procurement for in 1992. It was deployed to all counties in 1998, and we've been maintaining since then. State of the art for 1989. Just put it out there. At the same time, in the context of what we're calling another clever name, Child Welfare Services New System, we're looking to develop a new set of technologies and basically put together a front-facing set of digital services that will interact in real time, exchange data with the legacy system, so that we don't have to recreate the whole thing from start to finish in one fell swoop. So my entrance into this project, by the way, if you couldn't tell already, I'm not an IT guy. Okay, I am a child welfare policy guy, and I have been for about 7 years. I've been doing policy at the county level, at the state level, all that time. Was perfectly fine doing what I was doing, okay, until and kind of as a side job, because my boss didn't really like doing system stuff, kind of placing an oversight hand or a managerial hand into project management for this new system project, which has been going for about 10 years now. So in October, I got called into the principal's office. That's the director's office. And he says, look, we've been at this for quite a while, and we're wondering whether it's possible to go with a different methodology for replacing what amounts to a really large system. And we can go to the next slide, and I can just show you how large. How large are we talking about? So let me give you some contextual information about what we're talking about here. So in calendar year 2015, just over 500,000 unique children were reported to some hotline somewhere in California regarding allegations of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Unique children, 500,000, yes. Of those, 22,000, almost 23,000 kids entered foster care for the first time in 2015. That's a lot of doggone kids. At any given time, you have about somewhere between 54 and 56,000 kids in care in some capacity. Probably a third of those are staying with relatives while their parents are working out their issues. Several of them are about 10% or so are in some type of what we call congregate care situation, a group home of some sort, for all types of mostly mental health and conduct-related reasons. And many are in licensed family homes. And so that's kind of what the breakdown is. And let me see, I'm looking at that screen. I can't keep mine open. So the users of this system, there are about 20,000 of them. We have about 20,000 unique user accounts that primarily are being used by social workers, case-carrying social workers, or investigative workers. You have a lot of clerical staff that enter lots of batch information over the course of a day. But you have other users as well, public health nurses that visit the kids, who actually provide exams and that sort of thing. And that user base is growing. And, like many programs within state service, this is one of those that is state supervised, county administered. And so county social workers are on the front lines. They have full stand-up human services departments where they receive the daily interaction and marching orders on that interaction at the county level. At the state level, we provide some general oversight, a good portion of the funding pre-realignment. If you were following public safety realignment back in 2011, that fiscal relationship shifted, but we still have an oversight responsibility. And we, at the state level, are accountable to the federal government for not just for service delivery, but for outcomes relative to that service delivery on a number of different fronts. For example, how many times within a 2-year period does a kid have to change foster care placements? If it's more than 2, we have a major problem. How long does it take you to get out to investigate an allegation of abuse, neglect, or exploitation? Under different circumstances, there may be a 24-hour deadline, depending on the severity of the situation, or a 10-day. When we don't perform within those guidelines, we have a problem. So there are hundreds of performance measures for which we are responsible. And you, as the general public, you want to make sure that we're doing our job. We're doing it on time and we're doing quality work. Because when that doesn't happen, you've picked up a paper in the last year. You know what happens. Everybody with me so far? Okay. So again, we've been trying to replace this case management system for about 10 years. We got our first go forward plan in 2006. It took us 3 doggone years to put together an RFP to get out on the street. Okay. Why? Because we figured, hey, this is our one bite at the apple, and we have to describe from end to end not only what we need today, but what we see ourselves needing for the next dozen years. Y'all know how it goes. And so took us 3 years. And because child welfare services, more than probably many other programs that the state is responsible for, is a stakeholder-driven business. Folks are looking. Folks are checking the paper. The newspapers never stop inquiring. There are eyes on this system in ways that a lot of programs just don't have that level of scrutiny for all kinds of obvious and very important and really good reasons. And so we've been attempting to make sure that from a data standpoint, we have what we need to make good decisions. Again, state of the art for 1989. That's what we've been dealing with. One thing I will say for the legacy system, that sucker is dependable. Very, very few outages. And if whenever it happens, it's no more than the one in the 11 years that I've been in state service. I've only heard about, I believe, 1 outage that went beyond 3 hours. We're not playing around. This thing is available 24/7. And so for all kinds, and but it's expensive as well. Old technology, we're paying about $80 million a year at the state level for just system maintenance, just keeping things going. We also spend another 80 or 90 million for county goods and services to keep their things going from an IT standpoint. So for all kinds of reasons, price tag, one-time price tag on this project was about $400 million in our last report to the legislature, just over $400 million. For budgetary reasons, we suspended in 2011, reauthorized. Legislature gave us another go-ahead. So we've been trying to figure out a more effective, a cheaper way to replace this big old honking thing. And which gets us back to October last year, where I got this little assignment that said, hey, Kevin, can we do this differently? And why don't you go sequester yourself? Remember the word sequester. Because it's going to come back later with a fury. Go sequester yourself with a couple other state actors and a couple of consultants. Go away for 2 weeks. Hush, hush. If you tell anybody, you're going to have to kill them. And figure out whether we can do this incrementally. Let's figure out whether in state service we have the bandwidth and the ability to shift on a dime to be able to deliver in agile fashion. And you've been hearing, if you've been paying attention for the last several hours, you've heard the word agile a lot. So I'm not going to bore you with more of that. And so I came back and a small work group of us determined, it'll take a lot. It will take a lot, and it will be very painful. But the state can pull this off. And they said, fine, go do it. Like I said, I don't know IT from Adam, and I'm a policy guy, so I'm still trying to figure out my title, like I said earlier. I don't know what a digital service director does exactly, but maybe this time next year I'll have a better picture and we can have this conversation again. Good thing is, though, we're moving. And 10 months later, we're expected to have the first piece of this set of products. And there's a lot of product to generate. The first piece we expect to have in mid-2017 delivered to social workers so that they can actually use something. Now, after a decade, we ain't got nothing to show for it but paper that talks about what we were going to do. This time next year, we will actually have working product in the hands of social workers. So I'm extremely excited about that. So how does this relate to customer engagement and dealing with the ongoing everyday interactions with your customers? First off, I'd like to point you to a set of principles that we are in the midst of generating a culture change to remake our workplace to adhere to a set of principles. There are 12 or 13 of them. And agile software development is less a computer business than a people business. And if you go and look, I'll just have you Google if you feel like it, when or if, just Google agile principles. And you're probably going to get a document that is about 13 items deep. And literally half of those items about building software in an agile development methodology have to do with dealings with people, interactions between people. And this is just a little snapshot of that. So this is not to say when there are 4 lines here, and there is one set of phrases compared to another, as you can see. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And responding to change over following a plan. Now, for any of you who are engaged in project management, software development, any of that at the public sector or anywhere else, you know as well as I do that the right-hand side of the equation is very important as well. You know that processes and tools are important. You know that documentation is important. It's just that we know all of that is hugely critical to the success of a project, but the left side is more important than the right side. That's all. It's more important for us to get the interactions between us right. It's more important for us to actually have product. Just stop talking about stuff and stop writing plans down and go build a doggone product and put it in front of a customer and see what they like and they don't like. We have spent a decade planning to plan. I mean, and spent, I mean, just in the 3 or 4 years that I've been connected to, since 2011, we spent $21 million. For what? Not a line of code. Can you believe that? Well, yeah, you can, because you're all living it. You're living it right now, aren't you? Okay. And so this is people business, which gets me back to this set of issues regarding customer engagement in the whole nine. So just to how much time do I have left?
How are we doing? About 15 minutes?
Okay. You know, we have some historical customers, some of which I've talked to you about. County social workers, they are our users, and so their voice is pretty much primary directive number one. Hearing from them. But we also have some new customers. 2 of them are sitting in the front row here. Our licensing partners. There are folks who provide oversight and licensing and enforcement of state safety rules over children's residential facilities, licensed foster homes, group homes, foster family agencies. Those folks are our new customers in this work. But there are others as well. Caregivers we see as new customers. The youth themselves. You know, the young people, the teens who have come up in foster care are telling us, you know, they have the gall to sit there and tell me, you know, we want to know what's being said about us in those files of yours. So we want to be able to get in there and find out, rummage around ourselves and see what's being said, and maybe have an input or two. New customer. Judges and court personnel. They're our new customers. Judges are not only deciding on placements and that sort of thing, but they need to see, they need to make decisions about dosages of psychotropic meds, whether kids should have them, and when they do have them. And when they do have them, should the dosage go up or down? They have a lot to say about it. Medical personnel that we've never seen before, new customers. A few mistakes that we've made. That's probably the best way to learn anything is by stepping in it. A few of the mistakes that we made earlier, remember that sequester project that I had? Hey, go see if this is possible. We didn't involve our most important partners in that work, the county social workers. As represented by the County Welfare Directors Association, we basically made a decision that turned the entire project upside down, and we kind of let them know about it when we let everybody know about it, and they're still mad about that today. So mad that they actually in this last budget they inserted trailer bill language, which got approved, that statutorily requires their seat at the table. You will not make another one of these decisions without us at the table. So inform your customer. And second is don't assume that the information is being filtered everywhere it needs to go. We have to have a more active communications and stakeholder relations function that provides what I call radiation. Okay, one of my lessons that I want to leave you with is don't update, radiate. In other words, when we provide regular updates to stakeholders like we're in the habit of doing as project managers and all that, well, here's a written update. Well, here's a piece of paper, a document that will explain the high points of what we're doing. We think it's better to involve customers by actually as full a transparency process as we can. And to that end, there is a website that we have developed that does a few things. If you go to cwds.ca.gov, you will see a dashboard that gives you up to the minute updates on whatever it is that we're working on when we're doing. Not just that, general summaries of stuff, but a couple other places. We, as part of this Agile process, we make transparent our entire product roadmap. In other words, for the digital services that we're putting together, we we construct user stories, which are basically requirements. Here's what we're writing code for. And we make decisions every 2 weeks about which of those user stories which collection of them we're going to work on in 2-week increments. And that process is apparent to you as you go to the website. It's an application we call Pivotal Tracker. You can go in there and see what we're working on every single minute and how we've prioritized stuff, what order we're going to take requirements in, all of that. You can see it. And you can go to another site for which we have a link there called GitHub. You want to see working code? You want to actually see what it is the software developers are developing? They commit it to GitHub, where you can actually, if you have a similar feature that you need for your project, you can go copy that code and paste it into your application if you want to. So radiate. We're just pushing information out as opposed to waiting for regular updates to get information to people who we think need it. We're just making it available to the general public. You, as project managers and personnel on other projects, you can go there as well. Joe on the street, that guy walking out there with the bag, he can, if he has internet access, he can go and find out what we're doing and in what order we're doing things. So transparency, just get information out, push it out, and make the entire process public. And the other thing is put the customer to work. We think that county stakeholders, our other stakeholders, if you get an opportunity to see what we're doing and you have an opinion about it, why don't you write your own requirement and get it to us? There's a stakeholder feedback form and an entire process there where we train people. This is the process by which we take requirements in that we hand over to code developers to write code. If you want to see a feature there, why don't you give it a shot? We'll put it into the product backlog and order those and reorder those, just like we would the work that we've been messing around with for 10 months. You know, more eyes make for a better product, regardless of where they come from. That's all I have. Any questions? Thank you. I know how to kill a room.
Oh, no, question.
How do you do the secure? Because you're giving the code to the public, so how do you enable the security?
There is no security. We're not, so what I didn't say we provide is data about specific individuals or families or anything like that. It's the code. Now, we see this. It's the concept of open source. You know, the feds are paying 50% of this freight. The state is paying the other 50% to the tune of $500 million. Okay, it is a public good. Why should, if I have it already and you're working on a state project as well, why should you have to pay for it twice? That's or 3 times or 10 times or whatever. And I know that's with the vendors in the room, I apologize for that. Well, no, I don't apologize. I don't mean to. What I'm saying is, it is the John Q. Public has paid for that already. Okay, let's make it available to wherever it can do some good. Make some tweaks to it and make it your own. That's what we're doing in this space. Does that answer your question? So there's not person specific, no PII there, no HIPAA violations, or it's code, not data. Any other questions?
Yeah, back. Yeah.
You said you left the social worker, county social workers out of the design process?
No, we did not. As a matter of fact, they're there every day. The one-time cost of this project, remember I said somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 million one-time costs? Half of those costs are for county support, for them to embed themselves in the project as consultants, subject matter experts, as to aid in user research and design, which is a brand new discipline for state service, by the way. Remember that term, user research and design. Not necessarily asking your customer what they want, but observing them, being there looking over their shoulder every single day, and not asking what they want, observing what they need. So by doing that, we bring social workers and other county personnel into the project, embed them in the project, and take advantage of their expertise on the day-to-day. We visit counties and observe them doing their work, and we also provide state and federal funding for them to acclimate to, as new users, to the actual software, the new software. Even though we hope that it will be so intuitive and what I call idiot-proof that, you know, if you know how to use a basic program and you know how to do your job, you can probably pick it up and use it unaided. That's what we're hoping. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay, try it again.
So I thought you said at some point when you sequestered yourself, you and I guess some other stakeholders were sequestered to come up with a design or a new system that would meet your needs. You said you purposefully left out the social content.
No, that was a while back. That was a year ago when we decided to now a decade ago is when we decided to do this thing. We decided almost a year ago, to do it a different way. That's using Agile methodology to actually develop the software. That's the decision that we left the county representatives out of. And again, like I said, they're still mad about it. Now, from then on, doggone it, by statute, we are obligated to have them at the table and within the project to provide that day-to-day expertise. Does that?
So my question was that now that they're included, when you left them out and then you end up including them, did you notice that you had left out or that it made an impact on the product that you were developing?
No, it didn't. No, because it was a one-time instant decision to transition to a different method. It wasn't about what we were building; it's how we were building it. And that decision we took as a state, and as I've seen, it's kind of gaining steam. And other projects, some that you may be involved in, you're probably going to adopt some variation of this same methodology. But no, the decision to move to that methodology, that was an instantaneous one. It didn't really have an effect other than positively. We get to deliver on our promises faster. So it's all been positive. It's just, you know how you are. I mean, your significant other goes and buys a house. You wanna be at the table. Yeah.
Yes, please.
One question. For many years, I've tried to get management to let me work with the actual users of any particular system, but they seem to override that. You know, it's like management to say, this is what we need, this is how it needs to be done. How did you accomplish that? I mean, what was your sales pitch to management to allow you to work with the actual users?
Two things. It wasn't a sales pitch for us because in human services, particularly children's services, there's a very common saying: not about us without us. I mean, you're talking about planning, cases for people and planning what their lives are going to look like for the next several years. You better have them at the table. So that's kind of a value that we've had as a department and as an industry, child welfare. That's just a part of the way they go about it. And so there wasn't really a sales job for management to involve the users. But really what turned the corner for a different level of engagement was the Agile methodology itself. I mean, user-centered design is at the very forefront. You have to understand what your user needs. And when I say understand what they need, it's not, again, asking the question about what they want. You have to actually go out and observe. There's an entire scientific element associated with user research and design. It's kind of, for those of you in private industry, it's not new to you, but it's new to public service. And one of my goals as digital service director is to stand up that capacity within state service. Have state staff who are experts at user research and design. So not a sales job.
Yeah, in the back.
It sounds like the energy standard database, and I'm not sure what your plan is, but your systems or what you're shooting for is a fully encapsulated system, and by that I mean if it requires a form to submit for energy standard or requires a form to determine a child's status, that exists and is maintained and has workflow inside your application, or are you planning to have companion applications where someone's going to buy some kind of document management workflow software to manage their workforce while they work in the business application?
Ours is within the application.
Ours is less so. We're not looking for an integrated design. We've purposely divided up the workflows and the business processes into big chunks, for which we can develop standalone digital services. Now, we are very sensitive to making sure that the products specifically are tailored to our customer needs, and so to the extent that pre-existing or COTS products can meet a specific need, great, but that'll be determined as we develop or make a decision to purchase those products. Does that answer your question?
It does. I would ask why. Why did you go encapsulate?
Well, our system had been around for a long time, and it was so manual, it's unbelievable. And it took us years to actually, to get the proposal out, the FSR and so forth. But with just having this application, it eliminated over 95% of the workload, and paper and processing alone was huge. So the way it's built, though, we're now looking at it has been so successful to reach out to other areas, and we're now looking at possibly, expanding to get others to actually be able to come in and be able to use this product in other areas within the commission. But we were coming from literally paper emails, so this was such a huge jump, and ours is not the $400 million either. So, and since then, now by building this one, it was so successful. We're now working on another one, the same thing, that serves a different purpose, but it's the emails. We were very behind the times in terms of handling emails, and so now we're actually using this success to actually build on. So it's actually really exciting.
All right, so we're down to our last minute, so I'll just kind of wind this up. But firstly, my contact information is slightly cut off, but if you wanted to, had any other questions about this topic, and in particular you wanted to get in touch with the panelists to discuss more, I'm happy to facilitate that. I think just in closing, coming from a technology company, it's fascinating to get the perspective from folks out there where the technology is really secondary, right? I mean, the big theme is really, it's all about the interactions and working with the customers, and the nuts and bolts of the solution are really the secondary consideration in this. And I think that's really the big shift in how these projects are viewed. And certainly we've got a long way to go, right? There's still a lot of processes and procedures that we still have to kind of, go through before we can get to that kind of truly, agile space. But there's clearly been a big shift in that direction, and it's certainly exciting to see from our perspective, and great to see the state do that as well. So with that, I'll want to thank Christine and Kevin for their time and their efforts in this, and thank you very much for attending today.